Oh, hey. Hey guys, Zeta here. I'll be right with you in just a moment. I got kind of a spider problem, and it's huge. It's like the size of a small... Ooh, here it comes. I'm gonna try and catch it. But I don't want to get too close. Nope, don't want to get... Yeah. Ah, crap. You better not lay eggs. Not even once. I had enough baby making on my reviews. Last review had babies and spiders. Baby spiders. Kind of like the one in the game I'm about to review. Kind of comes full circle. Hey, speaking of that, segue. Today I'm continuing my review of Nitrome. This time I'm going to be covering these three games right here. Dangle, Swindler 1, and Swindler 2 because Shark. Dangle was made in July 2007 and was the first in a bunch of games by Nitrome to be sponsored by the late MTV Arcade, up until their game Nebula in 2009. MTV Arcade isn't around anymore. Dangle is an action game that involves swinging a spider back and forth on its web to avoid obstacles and enemies, hence the title. Upon starting the game, you'll notice right away that this title screen has a sick bass line. Woo! I love Interrogant's music. Makes me want to bust out into a cheesy white guy rap. For no particular reason. How about we just skip this joke? Sorry. I'm digging the visuals of this game, from the colors to the little animations that the spider has. It's pretty squidgy, this spider. He's like, meow, and watch me wiggle. The game is only 15 levels long, so it's a pretty short game. Well, supposedly. Because the controls are super simple. You swing the spider, or what's his name? His name is literally Spider?
Not anymore!
No. Come on. Nitrome, why not name him? You spend all this time making these really solid games with really solid characters. Why not give them a name? I mean, they're just descriptions of what they do or are. I mean, just because I generate nerd grease at an alarming rate does not mean my name is unsanitary. I'll be right back. I'm gonna wash my face. Okay, so let's name them as we go. Let's see. For the spider, hang on. Let me see here. Let's call him Matt, after the designer of the game, because hey, why not?
Anyways, you swing Matt back and forth by moving the mouse back and forth, arithmetically. To climb up or slide down, you click above or below Matt. It's pretty simple. Except it's not. Oh my gosh, it's not.
Yeah, remember whenever I was talking about Hot Air and it seemed like they were still learning to polish their games and balance difficulties and all that jazz? Yeah.
So, like I said before, there's 15 levels in the game, but you better get used to seeing them, because after level 2, it immediately kicks you in the teeth with difficulty, so you'll be trying them over and over and over, and it's trial and error. It's really for the wrong reason, too, because much like real spiders, the controls are super finicky. It's kind of hard to describe. You have to play it for yourself to see what I mean. See, when you want to quit swinging, you're supposed to keep the mouse to one side of Matt, but this also kills all the momentum you have. I think this mechanic kicks in inadvertently sometimes, as sometimes you don't want to swing right away. There may be an enemy in the way or something, so you end up with this really sticky feeling when you swing. The reason why I bring this up is there are some really precise jumps and maneuvers that you have to do in this game, especially early on. Some of the jumps rely on enemies blowing you around, which is dangerous, because to get enough momentum, you're going to want to swing forward with the wind. But before that, you have to swing towards an enemy to get yourself going and get the momentum, and that usually ends up with a lot of cheap damage. And if you don't do all this, you'll just land right short of where you should be. Yeah, so close. Just
Just walk a bit, Matt. You got 8 legs. Use them.
The worst part is when they put the spikes right at the freaking edge of the platform. It's like, if you don't get it just right... Hang on. Who designed the levels? Put them in front. Nitrome, if you're watching this, put them right here. Why do you want to watch the world burn?
Conversely, if you want to swing hard, well, you can't. You can't really force the controls in this game. See, the way it works is you have to kind of swing with Matt instead of yanking him all around, and somehow that lets you swing harder. I don't know. It's probably because I instinctively rest the mouse all the way over to get him to go, but the game, I think it thinks I'm braking whenever I do that, but I'm like, no, I'm just trying to pull him an extra inch, but then the momentum dies, and... I don't know, maybe the controls are just me sucking at the game. There's also, I think, a bug where when you click up and down to climb or slide down, sometimes the opposite happens. I think it might be relevant to how Matt's oriented, rather than your literal mouse position on the screen. So even though that your mouse is lower than Matt, the click is above his head relative to him, so he goes up rather than down. At least I think that's what happens sometimes.
I know I'm already complaining about games now, but for its credit, I really do like the game concept. I mean, it's pretty unique for the time, and I haven't seen many other games tackle it. At least not in 2D. I mean, you see them all in 3D. Oh, we gotta rappel down the road. You know, it was just rough, like a cat's tongue, for lack of a better analogy. Anyways,
the objective again is to get to the bottom of the stage as quickly as possible. Once you do, you're awarded points based on how many coins you got or the time you had left.
So you see, you got a timer here, but it's not like a time's up or dead timer. It's a get a bonus kind of timer.
If you get to the bottom in time, you get a flat 100-point bonus regardless of what the time is left on the timer, which is a pretty sizable bonus. But it's really hard to get both, as the timer is set pretty tight to, I guess what you could call a par time. You know, kind of like how Doom has, but to get the par time in that, you have to know where everything is, and you have to get it down tight. Since you can't get both unless you're a Dangle god of some kind, you'll want to choose one to go for, if you want to get high score. Also, keep in mind that if you lose all your health and you die, that's it. Your score resets. That's kind of how Nitrome's arcadey fashion works. Once you're dead, that's it. Conversely, if you get all the coins in the stage, you also get 100 points. You also get 5 points for every coin you collect, but it's really hard to get both, as the timer's set pretty tight. So you have to ask yourself,
so do I want to risk getting killed and having my score reset by rushing it, or play it safe and get coins that reward you many times over? I wonder which I should choose.
The level design actually does offer a little bit of freedom of path. Going left or right in some places is your call, sometimes offering coins or lives on harder paths. Get ready to take a few cheap hits on your first go, because the camera has a tendency to be too high up, and Matt here is too low to the screen, so you'll end up taking hits from stuff off screen and or backtracking. Not to mention clicking off the screen is still an issue too. Darn it, I don't want to share this on Google+. That's not because of the game, it's just because I hate Google+. It sucks. Anyways, I hate to say it, but I rage quit at level 7. Yeah, I know, I did it again. There's these green enemies that jump when you're over them, and to avoid colliding, you gotta brake. But when you brake, you don't get enough momentum to get past them without taking a hit. So that's kind of the problem with this game. You'll find yourself tanking hits just to get the level moving, and really that's the issue. It hurts the fun of the game. Also, the ending isn't worth it anyways. It's really just the title screen with the title changed to well done. Thanks, Nitrome.
Nitrome, you guys really have to work on your endings. Seriously. It's just not satisfying, especially for the difficulty. I mean, is the difficulty supposed to, like, extend the game's lifespan? Because there's a difference between challenging the player and driving them crazy, but, you know. I don't hate Dangle. I really don't. It's a really cool concept, and it did set the stage for one of my favorite series of Nitromes, the Swindler series. Just pretend I didn't stumble over my own words right there. I'm not doing that to you.
Swindler, full name Swindler the Great Drop-In Roller, is an action game very similar to Dangle. It was released in February 21st of 2012, and it was one of the first games to use Nitrome Touchy, and it was even one of the first 3 free games for that service. Also, I freaking love this game and its sequel. It is great. It's so good. The game is a pretty good length, with 25 levels, and it took me about an hour or so to beat. The concept is, again, very similar to Dangle, where you hang from a starting point and rappel down to the finish and get the cash prize. The major difference is how the game controls and how your web, or, well, your cord in this case, is used in the gameplay. You actually use the arrow keys to go up and down or to rotate the level itself rather than the mouse. Alternatively, you could use Touchy to control the game too, with up and down buttons being on the screen, and you'd turn the level by tilting your phone left and right. I remember trying it once, and it worked really well. It's really a shame that the service is down now, but, life goes on. The game also has puzzles and tasks to do that involve playing with the physics and using your cord. Normally, it's kind of hard to get a decent physics-based game, so seeing a successful one is always good times. It's always good to see. See, a lot of the mechanics involve wrapping your cord around certain points to avoid hazards or hold down buttons. And you have to be careful not to sever your cord, because if you do, you're dead. Apparently Swindler, yeah, that's his name, but I guess it works in this case, has to use the cord to breathe, which poses the question, what the heck is Swindler? Why does he need to breathe through a cord? Are the ruins he's raiding toxic? I mean, he's so goopy, and everything's goopy in this game. How did they come up with this theme? It's like if a gelatin mushroom spores took over, like, some sort of Aztec tomb. It's super confusing, but I really like the abstract nature and aesthetic of this game. I wonder if Swindler and Snot are cousins or something. Oh, I got some Swindler on my hand. Speaking of, since everything's kind of goopy and sticky and stretchy, the animations are lovingly handled. They are great. Just like in Dangle. Like, if you plummet down for a bit and then quickly go back up, Swindler does this little sprawling I can't even say it. It's stretchy, squishy. It's kind of like controlling a sort of floaty, inertia-heavy wrecking ball. If wrecking balls were made out of whatever Nickelodeon uses for slime. And normally, again, this would be kind of frustrating to have floaty controls, but it honestly works in this case. It kind of gives Swindler its feel and its gameplay. That and having analog buttons to tell the game what to do one-to-one is way more direct and less finicky than before. You say down, and he goes down. Up, he goes up. Left, right, there you go. In true arcadey Nitrome fashion, basically, you want to go for the highest score that you can, by either being quick, collecting all the stars, or in this series' case, there's something called chord efficiency. And basically that means that you get from point A to point B using the least amount of chord possible. Now, sometimes you're going to want to go off to the side and like wind around a bunch of stuff just to get all the stars, but if you do bother to backtrack and then go back down in a straight line in a possibly more dangerous way, you get a bigger bonus at the end. It's not a big bonus, but it's something to consider. The enemies. Man, I love the enemies. If not for their aesthetic alone, but their mechanics and how they add to the challenge of the game. Some don't injure you right off, which is probably to accommodate for the slower controls, but to balance that, it's one-hit kills. It's kind of a game of patience. If you rush, you'll end up getting killed. The enemies and objects are varied enough to keep the game interesting and are given to you throughout the game in little sprinkles. Very Nintendo of them, which is a great thing. You start off with these basic enemies that patrol big hallways. What are they called? The wiki calls them spherical orange goo creatures. I could have called them that. Nope.
Not anymore.
So you get these, let's call them egg yolks that patrol along hallways, muffin tops that bounce Swindler around when they get poofy, miffed muffins that do the same but shoot spikes out whenever they do so, sunny broadside uppers that have you manipulate gravity to move them around and out of your way, scarebees that latch onto your cord and try to eat Swindler if you're slow, egg crates that blow Swindler around, and scrambled eggs that serve as wall hazards if you hang around them too long, much like the fish and balloon fight. Sunny side downers that will cut your cord if you get too close to them, and this is a tough one. Orange barfing things. Orange juicers that barf orange juice, but you can use them to push switches down for a while.
I did it! Happy breakfast!
I did it!
Sorry. Oh yeah, there's also things you can pick up, such as bombs to blow up walls and boulders to hold down switches, given that gravity is in the right place. There's also some stationary hazardous cubes that you don't want your cord to touch, lest you get the dead. Man, I just now realized how much this game makes me think of breakfast. It's probably because I'm a fat American. Anyways, the enemies are really varied and pretty interesting to see and to go up against. Kind of makes you wonder what's next, without being too overwhelming. At least until the last 3 levels or so.
So, you know how I talked about earlier Nitromes being hard right off the bat? Well, this game is kind of interesting. It sort of trains you, introducing you to each element for the first 20 levels, but the last 5 serve as sort of this final exam. This is when you show the game what you've learned. They aren't terrible, but they're a pretty good challenge. Yeah, well, except for level 23. That one took me about 13 minutes to get both boulders in just the right spot. Yeesh. Finish up the game and... Oh boy.
There's gonna be baby making later, isn't there? I can't get away from it. I can't. Anyways, the variety, the art style, the mechanics. This is kind of why Swindler's one of my more favorite series of Nitromes that I've played. And it's a little bit easier than its predecessor, Dangle, but it's not like, easy. It's kind of weird that Dangle encourages faster gameplay, but you end up slowing down because of the bugs and how difficult it is to actually control Matt, But Swindler kind of slows down gameplay, but for some reason the nature of that game has an adverse effect because it feels like you can go faster with the one-to-one controls of the keyboard. And it only gets better from there.
Swindler went on to have a sequel, Swindler 2, because Shark, in November 21st of 2012. It's pretty similar to the first one before it, and also had Nitrome touchy support. It and the first game became distributable games, which basically means you could download them and put them onto your blog or your site or anything like that. Also, like its prequel, it has 25 levels and is about an hour long in length. However, unlike its sequel, there are new enemies and mechanics to build upon from the last game. For one, now you have these thingies right here called loops, in which you can navigate to and tie your cord to, detach, and roll around. It reminds me a lot of an old arcade game called Camel Try, aka On the Ball in the US. Man, I used to play that all the time for the SNES a lot. It involved rolling a marble through a maze by rotating the stage and avoiding time hazards and getting to the goal within the time limit. Anyways, it's very similar here, where as you're rolling about, you have a limited amount of time, as Swindler is holding his breath when he does so. And if you run out of breath, you explode. Yes, you explode. You can replenish your breath by using these fruit filled with air. Yeah, they're actually called fruit. I'm kind of curious. How do you eat a fruit made of air? Or is it like a gum?
No!
Nope, not that. Nope, too late. Now it's stuck in my head. Dreaming, don't give it up. Something dreaming, don't give it up. Ice cream. Anyways, the game is pretty similar to the first, really. It's more of kind of an expansion pack, if you will, with some new enemies and hazards that join some of the old ones. For instance, here we go again. We're gonna name them.
Not anymore!
First are popcorns that inflate themselves to float and deflate to fall. Whirligigs that are more like mobile egg crates, and muffin tops combined. Calamaris swim and bounce off walls, and boy are they tough. Egg drops that you have to keep an eye on and make sure that you don't end up pouring one out on top of yourself. And those things.
I hate them. They bite your cord, inflate, and then they chase you like mad. I mean, what kind of creature wants to do that? Other than furries, though.
There's also walls that close in on you the more you spin these wheels located on the corners of some walls. And you spin them with your cord the more you go up and down. So this kind of makes the cord efficiency bonus more of a proper gameplay element rather than just a score bonus. Then there's also those balloon-type thingies right here that float up and have hazardous cords of their own. So you kind of have to, tangle them up in some cases, or you can actually use them to hold buttons down that are on the ceiling, allowing you to proceed on. Man, I didn't realize that cord could be used in so many gameplay elements before this game. I swear. See, this is why I like this series. It's this unique thing that I honestly never would have thought of myself. You sometimes step back and you just wonder how far you can go with one simple concept. For that matter, they like to play with making the enemies work with you and to get to your goal more in the second one, too. Check this out in level 7. So the popcorns float upwards when they balloon up, right? Well, why not use that to your advantage? Wait for one to poof up, it floats up, hits the button, you go down, boom, cash monies. Also like the first, it trains you with the new mechanics and enemies up until the final few levels. The levels are much longer in this one too, so you'll need to be ready. The last one took me a good 13 minutes or so to get just right, and it was one of the shorter ones. It requires a lot of precise timing, and some luck. The only thing that's tougher than those mosquito thingies are these calamaris, as their movements are kind of erratic. They keep you on your toes. The only thing I wish that they would have added in Swindler 2 was to maybe make a couple more music tracks, as they're the same ones from the first one. Would have been neat to see, or hear. Speaking of seeing, maybe vary up the visuals a little bit too? I mean, I know that the theme is ruins and gelatin and spores and mushrooms, but maybe make a few levels at least a different color or something. Other than that, I can't think of much else to say, other than the fact that I'm a huge fan and I really think this is a solid game series with a unique premise and I love it dearly. Maybe someday they'll make Swindler 3. Please make Swindler 3. So yeah, that's Dangle and Swindler. I like the whole lot, even though the Dangle kind of hates me, but you know, what can you do? And Nitrome seems like a really fun place to work too. I mean, they try all these fun ideas and everything, and then if it doesn't work, they just try it again and they refine it. It's kind of like Nintendo, if Nintendo only worked on browser and Unity and mobile games. Seriously, I would sign up with them if I lived in the UK, but I'm in the US, you know. I got the degree and I got the skill set. I'm just in the wrong room. It's back. I'm gonna try and catch it. I don't want to get too close. I don't want to get too close. Hang on a second. Quickly. Off to the side. Okay. I'm gonna check it out. This is a fishing rod. I'm gonna dangle this like over the spider and drop it on top, and then I'm gonna catch it. See, it's like the game. It's like, okay, let's Alright, carefully. Butt clench. Yay! Okay, wow, I got it. Okay, I just need to get rid of the string. Okay, slide something under it so it doesn't get out. Flip it over. Alright. And pushes. Out we go. Yeah, I did it!
Good.
This is the dumbest joke I've made yet. Alright, thanks for playing.